You're waking up this morning, you're waking up to 3 points for West Ham. Yes, we beat Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. What a difference a few months makes. What a difference a new regime makes. Without getting carried away, I'm referencing the fact that West Ham last time out against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park got absolutely destroyed 5-2. It could have been a lot more. And we've turned it around. And they're a team we do struggle against, them have been struggling against over the last few years, especially at Selhurst Park. But we've managed to turn it around. We've got the 3 points, and that's a positive, and we're off the mark. And that was the key element here. You have to get off the mark quickly. You have to, and you have to give minutes into your players. And that's exactly what we are doing. So I am here to tell you the 5 things that we learned from the Crystal Palace game. Without further ado, I shall get started on numero uno, and that is the Coufal problem. What do I mean by the Coufal problem? Well, for me, there is a problem, and we all know the problem. And he's been a great servant, and I still think he's got a bright future at West Ham, a long-term future, unless West Ham are looking at pushing him on and selling him to try and bring some profits in, which I highly doubt, and that's not going to happen. He does not need to be West Ham's number one starter in that position. So we were problematic in that area because Crystal Palace identified that as our weakness, and they attacked that area all of the first half, causing us problems, and probably was leading to Dinos Konstantinos Mavropanos not having the best game that he's had in a West Ham shirt, particularly in the first half. Not in the second half, because I thought he came round and actually did really well in the second half, but the first half of game was 2 halves for him. And that led to him having to draw out. It also meant that Jared Bowen was being affected and become ineffective in the game because he had to track back a lot more than what he did. So what it has meant and led to is that it probably highlights really now after 2 games that Coufal isn't our number one starter. And I think we all knew that. I think we all absolutely knew that. But he's still got an absolutely top-notch career at West Ham. But the reason why is because we brought in this guy, and what an impact this guy made, Aaron Wan-Bissaka. He came off the bench, and very quickly he was very comfortable on the ball, very comfortable getting forward, which isn't his best attribute as a defender, because pound for pound, he is known as one of the best defenders in the Premier League when he's playing on form regularly. But what he did for that opportunity, for that goal that Tommy Souček scored, in terms of driving forward, skipping by the chip over the player in his own half, he ran about 50, 60, 70 yards, turned back the way, played the ball neatly into Jared Bowen, and then he turned and ran, and he totally meant it. Just a very, very impact player, and he looks like he's going to settle in. He's got a lot of Premier League experience, got a lot of European experience, and he knows what the pressure is all about, and he had made the impact. And I think it's now time that we see the transition of him moving into the starting setup for West Ham. I mean, I think that's more than done enough to prove his worth, absolutely. And also the key factor here is that Crystal Palace decided not to attack that area anymore because that wasn't the weakness to them. So there was an absolute benefit for that situation. Let's move on to number 3, and that is that Julen Lopetegui is not afraid. What do I mean by that? Well, something's not working, albeit we might call for it a lot earlier on. We may call for it even on the starting lineup. When we look at the starting lineup, we think, why are you not making those changes? But Julen Lopetegui is not a sheep. He's not going to follow. He's going to do what he thinks is right, and he's stuck by his guns. And therefore, when things weren't working, he wasn't shy in pulling players off. He wasn't shy in pulling Antonio off, and he wasn't shy in pulling Coufal off. And he was done it at the right time. And that's why he out-tacticked Glazner of Crystal Palace, who is a very well-renowned coach and very good coach and has done fantastic work at Crystal Palace. And Julen Lopetegui, on his second game at West Ham, has out-tacticked the opposition manager, and I think that is what is quite exciting. He's not afraid because he's also not afraid to keep someone like Tommy Souček on, whom, during the match day live when I was watching the game, I literally said 10 to 15, 20 seconds before he scored the goal, I think it's time we bring Souček off, as did most of the people who were watching at the same time. It didn't happen. Bang, he got a goal. And that's where he becomes really effective, when he gets involved and he gets forward and he runs, makes those late runs into the box. I mean, every game that Souček plays, I think he could score a goal. If Tommy Souček could learn how to keep the ball down, he probably would score a goal a game, because he gets chances. Look at the chance he had against Aston Villa, and look at a couple of the chances he had again today. He gets himself in those dangerous areas, and I think if he's played right, then he ain't going anywhere. Tommy Souček ain't going anywhere, and Julian Lopetegui is not shy in telling you that he knows exactly what he wants for this squad, and I think he is one of them. So let me know your thoughts on that one. Number 4, Pac-Man. I thought he had a wonderful game today. I think he was a man possessed. He knew exactly what he was trying to do. It wasn't just everything he was doing going forward. It was just tracking back. He was winning all of his duels. He was winning his ground duels, his aerial duels. He was just effective. He was trying a bit of trickery. He was trying penetration balls. He looked like a man possessed, and he really looked like a frightening player today. And fingers crossed everything works out and he stays at West Ham, which I think if everything does work out, I think he will stay at West Ham. But because we've backed him, we've supported him, but he looked like a man possessed today. He looked like a fantastic. He just looked the full Buna. He just looked brilliant. He looked really, really good. If you get a chance to watch the game back again, just watch Paqueta's movement. Watch him. He's constantly over with Emerson, trying to 1-2. Most of the time, that's selling off, and it's working. And they're all connecting. He gave away the ball a few times, but it was different. It wasn't giving the ball away in deeper areas, which is what he did a lot last year, because we were obviously playing with a low block. But we're playing with more possessional-based football, albeit our possession was a lot lower than what I thought it would be. And against Crystal Palace as well. But I thought he had a wonderful game, and it just shows you how important the Pac-Man is to West Ham starting 11. And if you're going to try and replace him, you're going to struggle to try and replace him. So let's not underestimate the Pac-Man, because he was wonderful against Crystal Palace. But this is the one that gets the man of the match awards, the cherry on the top. Maximilian Kilman, what a absolute top-notch performance from him. And it's not just the fact that his defensive duties were top-notch, because they absolutely were. But where he really stood out was his ability to grab the ball and drive. He drove West Ham forward all game, all day. The huge difference between a player like him and Mavropanos is he is so comfortable on the ball, and Mavropanos, with all due respect, is not. And Max Kilman is looking for passes, and 9 times out of 10 makes those passes. Max Kilman has got everything about him. I'm really excited after that performance yesterday. I'm really excited about what the prospects of partnership he can build potentially with Todibo. We've not saw a lot of Todibo yet. I don't know how we're managing that situation. Don't know what's going to happen there. I think we'll probably see him coming into the games over the next couple of weeks. But if we can spark up a relationship between Todibo, Kilman, Emerson one side, Wan-Bissaka the other side, get them playing games, get them having regular game time, then I'm going to be a lot more confident with our defence moving forward, and that's something we've been needing for a long time. A clean sheet was important today. It was massive. And once we made that substitution with Wan-Bissaka, Dinos settled. He absolutely settled. But the one player that settled all game was Max Kilman. He was phenomenal today. And out with that, he made something from absolutely nothing, from just dragging the ball, driving forward, I think about 50 yards down the right wing. And it just turned the defence into attack. And he played a lovely, neat ball out to the right-hand side. He's just a quality defender. It's a mixture of your old school, new school defender, but he's just extremely confident on the ball. And I love, for the first time in a long time, West Ham being able to get the ball from the keeper and have confidence in keeping it. That's where I think Todibo comes in over Mavropanos. Mavropanos does not have that confidence. And we know that Todibo does. That's how he builds his game. But he's the no-nonsense defender, as Kilman is the ball-playing defender. it's an exciting prospect to have the two of them potentially in the same West Ham team. So there's my 5 things that I have learnt from the Crystal Palace game. What are your 5 things? Do you agree with my 5 things? There's more. There's more. Of course there is. Of course there's more things. But going back slightly onto Julian Lopetegui's performance as a coach, I think what you can see, and I mentioned it yesterday, is the hands-on approach. He's a man's man. The players look like they massively respect him, and he massively respects them. And I think that goes a long way. His man management seems to be top notch. If you look at my post-match, when Julian Lopetegui gave the interview in his post-match, you can listen to what he says. He just doesn't talk about the team that's playing, the 11 people. He's talking about the bench. He's talking about the squad. He's talking about everyone. He's talking about how they're all actors or something like that, and they're all part of this journey. And I just think if he comes across like that in the mainstream media, and he comes across like that to me as a fan, if you're playing for him, you will want to play for him. I bet you any money he manages the Sufal situation coming off the pitch. I bet you any money he manages Antonio's situation when he comes off the pitch. His man management skills must be up there. Not getting carried away. I think there's time to gel. There will be time to gel. But let me know in the comments. Come on, you hands.